Lakshmi, the eminent panelists, and the distinguished guests and participants. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm going to, as the last speaker of this panel discussion, I'm going to share with you some secrets on this topic of optimizing the economic value of your IPR assets. Remember, IPRs, as we all, most of the practitioners and delegates here know, IPR is a negative right. It doesn't by itself create any asset. It's not an asset from that. When does it become an asset? It becomes an asset only when it is misused, unfortunately. Only when, for example, it's like your vehicle, unless it is stolen, the insurance premium that you pay on that vehicle is of no consequence. Similarly, an IPR, unfortunately, unless it is infringed, it just lies in the trunk there. You pay your premium every year, but at the end of 20 years, you find that it is an asset that has expired because nobody infringed it. Now, therefore, how do we increase the economic value of this asset? The first aspect is I'm going to share with you just a few points. The first is that your asset must be as strong as possible. How do you make it as strong as possible? Is to remember that there is a different strategy for every country. Every country, every territory must have a different strategy. Many assets have failed, many patent applications and patents have failed in India because of not applying this particular strategy. You can't have a US patent, a US drafted specification filed in India. You can't have a European patent filed in India, whatever you may say. It has to be drafted according to Indian standards, according to the Indian rules. And therefore, many assets fail in India, patents fail in India because they haven't been drafted according to Indian standards. That's the first. Therefore, you must have a strong, locally centric IP asset. That's the first. The second is thicket protection. Optimizing your economic value of a single patent or a trademark. For example, we were working for a company called Nirma, Nirma, for washing powder, just a single product company at that time. What we suggested was that we knew that you are going to get infringement actions from various other people using Lirma, Tirma, Virma, Kirma, Mirma, whatever. So how do you do what is called thicket protection? It is easier to file registrations for all these series of trademarks than to try to take infringement action and register a whole series of marks. Never mind the whole aspect of non-use, and that will come at a later date. But at the moment, that would be called thicket protection in trademarks, thicket protection in designs, thicket protection in patents. Have a surrounding patent right so that you protect the various other features. So that is the second aspect. That is the second method of optimizing your. Then the third is diligence. You must continuously have a standard diligence pattern. Now, for example, suppose you file a patent suit in India. Before you file a patent suit in India, check whether all the requirements, for example, whether the Section 8 requirements were satisfied. If you don't do that, you are failing as a lawyer being diligent about it because you haven't done your diligence before filing these suits. That is how you optimize. The third is audits. The fourth is audits. Have regular audits for all your IP, what is there in your IP trunk. Check on those kind of things. Refurbish them. If there is an IP that you don't need to use, if there is a patent that you feel that is not so useful for the company, consider licensing. In India, we fall short of, for example, many patents are abandoned. They don't pay the renewal fees because people say, the marketing team says, we don't want to use this patent. But have you thought that have you considered that down the line there may be some particular company, some entity who may be interested in licensing that particular technology? So have those kind of audits. And finally, this is the last issue that I'd like to share with you as far as intelligence. It's not just you can, and that is, I mean, strangely enough, you can improve the economic value of your own IP by checking what other people are doing around you, what other competitors are doing around you. Because that is an aspect of your own economic, then you know whether how you stand as compared to your peers in your organization. I'll just share one aspect as far as economic value in India is concerned. For example, when we speak of litigation. In India, revocation of a patent, unlike, for example, Europe or the US, revocation of an IP, applying for a cancellation of IP is a very simple and inexpensive exercise. For example, I'll share this with you. And what we find is that in the US and in Europe, the practice is to issue cease and desist notices. You will issue a cease and desist notice once your IP is violated. Now in India, that would be really wrong strategy. Because if you issue a cease and desist notice, the first or very likely what you're going to get is going to get an application for revocation of that IP, however good or bad that your IP may be. So I mean, this would be one aspect of, for example, and just an example as far as your litigation strategy is concerned. Let's take another example, which is practiced. For example, in India, as far as litigation is concerned, when do you start litigation? Not when the infringer just starts. For example, you have to be like a spider sitting in a web. That is the methodology how you would adopt litigation. I mean, the minute if you see that the infringer is approaching the web or has just touched the web, and you litigate and you start shouting, "This is my IP," the victim is going to run away. Your infringer is going to get scared and go. Now you must therefore allow, strategy demands that for increasing this value of your litigation, you allow the victim to be set. Then he has much more to lose. With these thoughts, the panel and all of us would be quite open to some suggestions. I'm cutting short the time because let's give some more time to the audience for participating in this discussion. Thank you.